Look, most people spend their lives waiting for a fair shake that's never coming. They think if they work hard and play by the rules, the world will eventually hand them a trophy. That's a lie designed to keep you predictable. The dark truth? Power doesn't care about your good heart. It cares about who's holding the leash. Machiavelli wasn't a monster. He was just a guy who stopped blinking. He knew that it's much safer to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. Love is a thin thread held together by obligation, and people break obligations the second they get a better offer. Fear, though? Fear is a knot in the stomach that stays tied. Imagine you're at work and a colleague, someone you actually like, starts accidentally taking credit for your ideas in meetings. You want to be the bigger person, right? That's your first mistake. If you let it slide, you've just signaled that you're a doormat. The fix for this mess isn't a HR complaint. It's making them realize that crossing you costs more than they can afford to pay. You start sharing a flawed idea with them in private, let them steal it, and then watch them drown when they can't explain the gaps in front of the boss. You don't have to be cruel, but you have to be effective. In the real world, fairness is just a fairy tale told to children to keep them quiet. If you rely on people being nice, you are building your house on sand. Machiavelli taught that people are generally ungrateful, fickle, and greedy. They will stand by you while the sun is shining, but the moment the clouds roll in, they'll run for cover. Or worse, they'll push you into the rain to keep themselves dry. To survive, you have to stop looking at the world as you wish it were and start seeing it for the chess match it actually is. Think about a time you went out of your way to help a friend move or finish a project, only for them to forget to invite you to the celebration afterward. You feel burned, but the problem isn't their rudeness, it's your expectation. You gave them your power for free. The tactic to flip this energy is to never provide a service without a visible price tag. Not necessarily money, but a social debt that they know is hanging over their head. When they realize that your help isn't a gift but an investment they have to pay back, they stop treating you like a convenience and start treating you like an authority. Control is the only currency that doesn't lose its value. If you aren't the one setting the terms, someone else is setting them for you. Most people are terrified of being the bad guy, so they settle for being the victim because it feels morally superior. But being right doesn't pay the rent, and being a martyr doesn't get you a seat at the table. You have to be willing to get your hands dirty to keep your life clean. Picture a group setting where one person is clearly the alpha, making all the decisions and talking over everyone. You try to be polite and wait your turn, but your turn never comes. The strategy to break their grip isn't to start a loud argument. It's to quietly identify the person the alpha relies on most, the one who handles their schedule or their secrets, and make that person your closest ally. By winning over the support system, you effectively cut the legs out from under the leader without ever raising your voice. You don't need to win the fight if you've already won the room. You think being authentic is a virtue? In the real world, showing your true face is like handing your enemy a map of your soft spots. Machiavelli taught that a prince should be a great pretender. You need to look like the saint while acting like the shark. Most people wear their emotions on their sleeves. You should wear yours in a lid box. When you show everyone exactly who you are, you give away your power to surprise them. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who is smiling while they're calculating the exit strategy. Transparency is for people who have nothing to lose. If you have goals, you need a screen. Most people aren't looking for the truth anyway. They are looking for a performance that makes them feel safe. If you give them the real you, complete with your doubts, your temper, and your specific plans, you're just giving them ammunition. A master of the mask understands that your public image is a tool, not a mirror. You should be able to walk into a room full of people who dislike you and have them all convinced you're their best friend by the time you leave. Think about that friend who always asks for honest advice, but really just wants a witness to their chaos. They tell you a secret, hoping to bind you to them. If you get too close, their drama becomes your baggage. The way out of this trap is to be a mirror. Give them back exactly what they want to see, but keep your own cards pressed tight to your chest. If they try to pull you into a conflict that doesn't benefit you, stay neutral until you see who's winning. Then, and only then, do you pick the side that guarantees your safety. There's a reason people say, fake it till you make it, but the Machiavellian version is fake it so they can't break it. You need to cultivate a reputation for being one thing, perhaps the reliable worker or the loyal neighbor, while your true intentions remain invisible. This isn't about lying for no reason. It's about strategic concealment. If people can predict your moves, they can block them. If they think they know your heart, they'll try to pull at your heartstrings to get what they want. By keeping a mask on, you remain an enigma, and an enigma is much harder to manipulate than a nice guy. Imagine you're in a high-stakes negotiation, maybe buying a car or asking for a raise. You're nervous and your hands are shaking. If the person across from you sees that, they know they've already won. They'll squeeze you for every penny because they can smell the desperation. The technique to flip the script is to adopt a mask of total indifference. Even if you need that job or that car to survive, you act like you could walk away in the next 30 seconds without a second thought. When you hide your need, you increase your value. The moment they realize they can't read you, they start to worry about losing you, and suddenly, the power is back in your hands. The mask also protects you from the jealousy of others. If you're doing well, don't brag. If you've got a plan to move up, don't announce it. People love to tear down a rising star. Machiavelli suggested that it's often wise to appear less capable or less ambitious than you actually are. Let them think they're smarter than you. Let them think they're in control. While they're busy being proud of themselves for managing you, you're quietly moving the pieces into place for your final move. Consider a social circle where one person is a constant gossip, always looking for dirt to spread. They come to you with a juicy story, waiting for you to react so they can tell others what you said. If you show shock or anger, you've fed the beast. The method to stay clean is to wear the mask of the boar. Give them nothing but dull, polite nods and, "Is that so?" responses. When you become a dead end for information, the gossip moves on to a louder target. You haven't made an enemy. You've just made yourself invisible to their drama. By the time they realize you're the one who actually holds the influence in the group, it'll be too late for them to stop you. Wearing a mask is the shield that keeps you safe, but eventually, you have to step out from behind it to actually build something. You can't win the game alone, but you also can't win it with people who are just there for the vibes. This brings us to the coldest part of the play, how you handle the people around you. Gratitude has a very short shelf life. If you do someone a massive favor today, they'll thank you. By next week, they'll start to resent you because your presence reminds them that they owe you. Machiavelli was clear. Never make someone so powerful that they don't need you anymore. The goal isn't to be liked, it's to be indispensable. You want people to follow you because their own success is tied to yours, not because they think you're a nice guy. Loyalty is a beautiful word, but in the street, it's usually just another way of saying, "I haven't found a better deal yet." Think about that person in your life who's always going to blow up soon. They're talented, they're hungry, and you've been their biggest cheerleader. You give them money, you give them contacts, and you give them your time. Then the moment they get a sniff of real success, they stop answering your texts. They aren't busy. They're trying to outrun the memory of needing you. The fix for this disrespect isn't to get angry or send a long emotional text. It's to make sure you hold the keys to the one thing they still need. If you're the only person who understands their taxes, or the only one with the login to their main platform, they can't afford to ghost you. You don't want their thanks, you want their reliance. In every circle there are friends and there are tools. A friend is someone you grab a drink with. A tool is someone who can get you into the building where the drinks are free. Machiavelli taught that a wise leader surrounds himself with people who are smarter than him in specific ways, but who are all competing for his favor. If you let your inner circle get too comfortable, they'll start thinking they're your equals. And once they think they're your equals, they'll start wondering if they should be the boss. You have to keep them slightly off balance, always making them prove their worth one more time. Imagine you've helped a teammate get a promotion. Now they're your boss, and suddenly they're acting cold. They're trying to erase the memory of when they were beneath you. This is a classic power move. Your move to flip the script is to stop being their crutch. Quietly withhold the specific niche information or secret source that made them look good in the first place. Don't make a scene. Just let them stumble slightly. When they realize they're drowning without your input, they'll come crawling back. You haven't saved them. You've reminded them that you are the oxygen in the room. The most dangerous people aren't your enemies. You know where they stand. The dangerous ones are the friends who know your secrets but don't have a stake in your success. If someone knows too much about you but doesn't need you for their next paycheck or their social standing, they are a ticking time bomb. You need to tie their knot to yours. Give them a piece of a project that only pays out if you win. Make it so that if you go down, they lose their shirt too. That's not being paranoid. That's being prepared. Let's say you have a neighbor who knows a bit too much about your private business. Maybe they saw something they weren't supposed to. Instead of avoiding them and making them suspicious, you pull them in. You ask them for a huge favor that makes them feel important and gives them a small benefit. Now they aren't a witness, they're an accomplice. The way to secure your peace is to turn their knowledge into a shared interest. Once they feel like they're part of your team, they'll protect your secrets like they're their own. You haven't bought their friendship. You've bought their silence with the best currency there is: self-interest. Once you've mastered the mask and learned how to keep people dependent on you, you'll eventually run into someone who simply won't play ball. They don't want to be your ally, and they aren't scared of your shadow. When a threat like that refuses to bend, you can't afford to just poke at them and hope they go away. You have to finish the job. If you have to hurt someone, do it all at once. Machiavelli's darkest teaching is also his most practical. Injuries should be done all together, so that, being tasted less, they offend less. If you nibble at your enemies, you just make them angry and give them time to plot. If you're going to take someone out, professionally or socially, you hit them so hard they can't get back up to seek revenge. Being half mean is the most dangerous thing you can be. It creates an enemy without removing the threat. Think about that person in your social circle who's always taking little shots at you, sarcastic comments, jokes at your expense, or small betrayals. You try to be the bigger person by giving them a warning or a cold shoulder. All you've done is tell them exactly where your boundaries are so they can figure out how to jump over them next time. They now know you're annoyed, but they don't fear you. The way to end the disrespect is to wait until they overstep in a way that everyone can see, and then bring down the entire weight of their past mistakes on their head in one move. Don't just argue. Make it so they can't show their face in that group again. Machiavelli said that men should be either treated well or crushed. If you give someone a light slap, they'll spend every waking hour thinking of how to hit you back. But if you break them completely, they won't have the strength for a comeback. In the modern world, this doesn't mean violence. It means reputation, livelihood, and social standing. If a competitor is trying to tank your business, don't just lower your prices. Find their biggest client, their worst secret, or their biggest legal hole and expose it all on the same day. Picture a neighborhood or social group where one person is spreading rumors about you. You try to play nice, you try to talk it out, but the whispers continue. You're bleeding from 1,000 small cuts. The method to end the bleeding isn't to argue. It's to gather every bit of leverage you have, their past mistakes, their inconsistencies, their own secrets, and drop the hammer in one public, undeniable moment. You don't do it for spite. You do it to set an example. Once the threat is neutralized, you go back to being the saint everyone thinks you are. The world will forget the blow, but they'll remember the silence that followed it. Mercy is often just a fancy word for cowardice. You hesitate because you want to feel like a good person, but while you're busy feeling good, your enemy is sharpening their knife. If you leave a spark, the fire will eventually return to burn your house down. When you decide to act, you act with total commitment. Imagine you're dealing with a toxic boss who is trying to push you out of the company. They've been documenting every tiny mistake you make. You could try to do better, but they've already decided your fate. The path to survival is to stop defending yourself and start an offensive that they can't recover from. You don't just report one incident. You collect every email, every witness, and every HR violation they've ever committed. You present it all at once to the highest level of leadership. By the time your boss gets the meeting invite, their career is already over. You haven't just saved your job, you've removed the person who made it a nightmare. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the darker side of human nature, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Most people are too afraid to look at the world for what it really is. Don't be one of them. Turn on notifications so you never miss a lesson on how to stay ahead of the game. If you've ever had to use one of these Machiavellian moves to protect yourself, or if you've been on the receiving end of one, drop a comment below. Let's talk about how the real world actually operates when the lights go out. See you in the next one. Once you realize that an enemy can't be half beaten, you understand the value of true security. But you can't spend your whole life looking for enemies to crush. That's exhausting and makes you a target. The real trick to staying on top without always having to fight is making sure that the people around you can't afford to see you fail. This is where you turn your value into a leash. Most people think being independent is the ultimate goal. They're wrong. If nobody needs you, you're disposable. Machiavelli knew that a prince's security lies in the necessity of his subjects. You don't want people to follow you because they think you're a nice guy. You want them to follow you because their own survival, paycheck, or social status is glued to yours. When you are the only one who knows how to fix the machine, the person who owns the machine becomes your servant. Independence is a lonely, weak position. Dependence is where the real leverage lives. Consider a situation where you're part of a tight-knit friend group or a specialized team. You notice someone else is starting to become the go-to person, slowly pushing you to the margins. You feel your influence slipping, and you're worried you'll be the one left out of the next big plan. The tactic to regain your ground isn't to compete for attention or start an argument. It's to quietly create a bottleneck. You take over a specific, messy responsibility that no one else wants but everyone relies on, like managing the group's shared finances, a high-stakes client relationship, or the technical back end of a project. Once you're the sole gatekeeper of that headache, you aren't just a member anymore. You're the infrastructure. They can't get rid of you without breaking the whole system. In the street, being useful is better than being loved. If people love you, they'll cry at your funeral, but they'll still let you get fired today if it saves their own skin. If they depend on you, they'll fight to keep you in your seat, because your downfall is their downfall too. Machiavelli argued that men are more bound by the benefits they give than by those they receive. You don't want to be the one always saying thank you. You want to be the one everyone has to thank, even if they hate saying it. Imagine you're working a job where your manager is a nightmare, always looking for a reason to write someone up. You're stressed, looking over your shoulder every 5 minutes. The maneuver to shield yourself isn't to work harder at the basic stuff everyone does. It's to find the one thing your manager is terrified of. Maybe it's a specific audit, a difficult vendor, or a report they don't understand, and become the only person who can handle it. When you become the person who makes their life easy, you become untouchable. They might still be a jerk to everyone else, but they'll treat you like royalty, because they know if you walk out that door, their world collapses. The darkest part of this is knowing when to let them feel the weight of their dependence. If they start taking you for granted, you don't complain. You just get sick or take a vacation right when the pressure is highest. Let them see what life looks like without you for 48 hours. The answer to their ego is a dose of reality. When they see the chaos that ensues when you aren't there to hold the strings, they'll never question your value again. You aren't being mean, you're just reminding them of the price of your absence. Think about a family dynamic or a long-term relationship where you do everything, but no one seems to notice. You're the one who remembers the birthdays, pays the bills, and keeps the peace. You feel like a ghost. The strategy to change the vibe is to stop doing the invisible work and start doing gatekeeper work. Control the passwords, the schedules, or the bank access. Don't be a jerk about it. Just be the one in charge of the flow. When they have to come to you to get what they want, they stop seeing you as a servant and start seeing you as the source.